And we are live. Welcome to Dylan Knows. It is October 5th, 2014, which is the first Sunday of the month. And for those who've been following our show for over a year, which I've been doing this for over a year now, the first Sunday of every month is my comic show with my co-host MJ. Say hey, MJ.
Hey, how are you, everybody? Happy October. Happy post 1 year anniversary, Dylan.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, it's been a interesting year so far, and I have to admit that doing this show for a whole year has made this year swing by very quickly because
I
can't
bet.
believe I can't believe we're in October already. It's just wow, it's absolutely crazy, and it feels like October today outside. It's fantastic. It's sunny but
Finally.
chilly, yeah, and chilly, so it's fantastic. So
Football weather.
yeah, exactly. Football weather. Yeah, football's going on. Yeah, I got my Ravens are playing the Colts, so they're playing in about 9 minutes. So that's okay. I'll catch them on the tail end. It's not a big deal. Yep. But we're here to talk comics. So due to technical issues, as I always seem to have, this is being done on Google Plus, but there is no actual link on Google Plus to watch this. So you can watch on my YouTube page. I sent the links out. And as always, once the video is done, uploaded to my YouTube page, I will send out so people will see it, maybe just not necessarily live. So if you are watching live via the YouTube channel, you can go ahead and tweet me any questions or comments you have. So today, since we are going to be talking comics, we talk about comic books somewhat, but we also tend to focus a lot more on the big things that are going on now because, and we'll talk about this also, comics are a huge thing now. It's now become a huge part of pop culture with the movies and the popularity and stuff like that. So, there's lots of, this season alone, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right off the top of my head, 5 or 6 shows based on superheroes alone, and more coming, which we'll talk a little bit about in the next thing. So the main one we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Gotham, which, if you've been watching our show, MJ and I have been sort of not necessarily dismissive about, but we were kind of hesitant about. It wasn't the one we were the most interested to watch, but we have 2 episodes under our belt, and we'll chat about that. Plus, it's a big week in comics. I wasn't able to do my my comic haul this week, but I'll just give you a quick preview of why it was a big week. Thor #1. Everyone knows about the female Thor. Plus, I don't pick up Captain America, but this issue, Captain America 25, also came out this week. Has the introduction of Sam Wilson, who was previously known as the Falcon, has now taken over as Captain America. So those are 2 main reasons you might want to go to your comic store this weekend or this week, pick those books up. But let's see, what should we start with first? Some quick news, I guess. MJ, what do you think?
Yeah, why don't we see what's out there?
The big one is, unlike The Winter Soldier, which is a great film, is a great film,
It's a great film.
It took forever to come out on Blu-ray and DVD. Guardians of the Galaxy will actually be here on Blu-ray and DVD before Christmas, just in time for Christmas, as it were. It will be released on December 9th with a commentary by James Gunn, which actually I would love to hear his comments about things. So that should be pretty cool. Yeah, I think they've got deleted scenes as always. They've got gag reel. I think they're going to have some previews of Avengers 2 in there as well, from what I heard. And I'm so mad. England is getting a specialized box, which is the holder for the Blu-ray DVD is going to look like the tape holder for his Awesome Mix. It's only
that might be worth ordering on Amazon just to have it. Even though you can't play it, that's a really cool box. I would like to have that. That movie made so much money, and I couldn't be happier for it because you know what? It deserves every penny that it made. So I am sure it's going to look amazing on Blu-ray. So I can't wait for it.
And exactly, can't wait to see what other fun stuff they're going to add to it. Because a lot of people tend not to get the DVDs and check out the behind-the-scenes stuff. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I don't always check out the behind-the-scenes stuff, but there are some movies that I do, and it's a very interesting look into the process of filmmaking. And this might just be one that I might just say, hey, you know what? Let's just play all on the behind the scenes stuff and just get an idea of what's going on. So that's good. So December 9th, mark that on your calendar. Guardians of the Galaxy. I will be getting that. Probably that
day. My birthday. I'll be getting it too. So
fantastic.
My birthday treat to myself. I'm gonna write it down.
Write it down right now. Yes. Let's see, what else was I gonna say? Speaking of comic books coming to TV, so like that, there is the rumors now that the Teen Titans will be receiving a live action TV series. I think it's CW also. I think so. Right. CW or TNT, one of those two. It's just it's in the process of being worked on, and I want to say that they have a pilot order already, which means I don't think it necessarily means that the season's been ordered yet. It's just they say make a pilot for us. We'll see if we like it, and we'll post it for that. So.
And I think that they're dropping the teen from it. I think it's just going to be Titans, because they're trying to broaden it out, but how the CW tends to focus on the younger demographic, but not quite the teenage demographic. So I think they're dropping the teen to try and pull in as many people as possible. But it could be good. You got Nightwing, Raven, Starfire, all of those have already been mentioned, so I think it'll be pretty good. I don't know that they're going to have Wonder Girl or not, but who knows what they've got tied up with licensing. So.
And if it is CW now, there have been talks on the new Flash show that Wally West will be on, so he very well could become Kid Flash, regular Flash, whatever you want, or Impulse if they decide to go that way. And you know what, I'm okay with that. The teen part of Teen Titans is okay, but the problem with that is if it's a yearly series, you have a new season every year. They're going to get older, and they're not going to be teens that much longer.
Can't be calling them, yes, right.
And plus, you know what? You might not want to show teenager. Well, I guess they do it on TV anyway, but teenagers in dangerous situations. I don't know. I guess they do it anyway. but yeah, I guess it would be to get into that 20-year-old.
Right, and up,
Yeah. Because some of the best stories that they've done and the Titans have done have been focusing on the Starfire and the Nightwing and the Cyborg, and when they were all in that 20-year-old range where they started off as sidekicks, but have sort of grown out of it and have also got that chip on the shoulders, like, okay, they only recognize us as being part of a team, or rather being part of someone bigger, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, whatever. Why we need to break away from that and create our own, and that could add some interesting depth to it. So I just hope that they get a good showrunner, some good writers, and maybe some good actors in there.
Yeah, kind of branch out into maybe show it detailing what it's like to try and carve out your own identity at that age. You got this larger shadow looming over you, but you're like, hey, I'm not a baby Batman here. I can do my own thing. I have my own rogues gallery, and it's a little. I think it could be a little darker too, because if you think about it, the Teen Titans did tend to get a little bit darker. They dealt with some edgy issues and concerns. I think they were one of the first big teens to grapple, teenage suicide and drug abuse and that type of issue. So it could go places. I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely give it a try.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know it's not possible, but my kids have been obsessed with Teen Titans Go, it's a cartoon on Cartoon Network now. And I was doing some research, as I always do, and there have been many iterations of the Teen Titans or the Titans in cartoons, animated series, but there has been one constant. I believe the actress's name is Tara Strong, who's been the voice of Raven in every iteration, and she just nails it. She nails it in every single one of them. And unfortunately, I discovered she's the same age as I am, so she's not going to be able to probably be in the show as Raven, unfortunately. But I will admit, Raven is my favorite character on Teen Titans Go. I don't know if you've ever seen Teen Titans Go, MJ. Yeah. It's silly. It's a silly kids show. And the Titans some of the things that the Titans do in that make me cringe a little bit as a parent, because they try to teach you this lesson and then they totally go and destroy that lesson. They don't. It's not like they understand it. Plus, it's in the world of cartoon physics where Starfire trying to cheer Robin up by becoming his arch nemesis blows up the moon, and then it's referred to again that the moon has been destroyed by Starfire.
Yeah.
Or how they've died like 2 or 3 times, and they've just their spirits have gone away. But it's funny. The kids love it. It's a fun show, and Raven just absolutely kills it for me. I love her. She's my favorite character. So yeah, I'm hoping. Yeah, and Darker also. I mean, Raven's character as well. I mean, with her dad being a demon intent on trying to take over the world in Trigon. I mean, that's huge. So.
I think that they can get a huge story arc out of this if they do it right. I mean, you've got Raven's backstory, Starfire's backstory. I mean, those two alone could give you seasons worth of material to work with. So.
Absolutely. And then it depends on who the basic group is going to be. I mean, there's lots of characters you can choose from, and how you go about it. So I like the idea, and hopefully it'll work out. We mentioned the Flash real quick. The Flash does begin on Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, I believe. Right? Yeah.
Yes.
It's before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm going to DVR both the Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then watch them at a later date. But so that's good. You want to keep an eye on that. And then I don't watch it, but I know you do, MJ. Arrow Season 3 is on Wednesday. Do you want to give me some of your insights about what you expect to see or hope to see in the 3rd season?
Well, I think they're going to explore the League of Assassins a lot more in this episode. They've already announced that, Ra's al Ghul is coming. So, you've got himself, and then there's kind of it's up in the air what's going to happen with the Black Canary, who was a major part of last season's episodes, and I don't know if it's going to continue, if she's going to continue the way that she is, or if they're going to have a new one. There's also, Speedy, Arsenal. They've introduced tons of characters last season that they set everything up for that they're now going to fully explore this season. So I think it's going to be really, really good. I mean, it's an excellent show, and I say that every time, but it really is. They've certainly demonstrated that they know how to take these characters and create their own little universe that's separate from the comic, but still bring everything in that you expect and that you know. So I'm really looking forward to that. And of course, they'll have a couple of episodes, I'm sure, where they'll tie in with the Flash, and that's where he got his origin start. It was on Arrow in this universe, so I think that's going to be really something to look forward to as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I think they have been or are filming the one crossover that we know of right now is being filmed right now. And from what we've seen of the trailer and stuff like that, I think you'll see Arrow pop up in the pilot. I think just which makes sense. It's the pilot. You started in Arrow, so why don't you just have him say, "Hey, I just heard what's going on. Glad to see. Make sure you're on the up and up, and that I don't have to take you out or whatever. That type of thing. It's gonna be just one of these things where he'll come in and just check on them, and then he'll go about and do his own thing. So
try
just
to scare him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, could be Harry too.
Because the shows are going to have the same fan base, so why not appeal to both? When you can. So I think it's going to be good.
Exactly. So fantastic on that end. And then this is something that just came up recently that's actually kind of interesting. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., from what I've heard, the ratings haven't been spectacular. They're still kind of down in the, not in the gutter, but they're still not as good as expected, whatever. And it's not because of the episodes. I've been hearing people who've watched the episodes. They said this season's been starting off pretty strong so far. But the main thing, and we discussed this before, there's no way that ABC, who's owned by Disney, is going to probably cancel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. anytime soon, no matter how bad the ratings get, because it is absolutely free advertising for the Marvel films coming up. And if done properly, you can set up, like I think they're setting, I think one of the new characters introduced in this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. makes an appearance in Avengers 2, so they're going to have that connection as well. And but the big thing, this is the big news that the big rumor out there now about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that for those who've been watching it, and as I said, I've DVR'd it, I haven't been watching it, but I've been reading some of the reviews, stuff like that. Coulson is still writing all that weird gibberish alien alphabet type of thing all over boards and walls and stuff like that. And I guess the wide-eyed people who follow these things with a microscope were saying, you know what? There's a new comic out called Inhuman. It's based on the Inhumans and stuff like that. And they took a picture of the cover of the first issue, and inside the Inhuman logo, there's all this strange writing that is very similar to what Coulson's been writing. And we've also been told that Inhumans is probably going to be one of the films that Marvel has, they've announced all these dates. It's
Right.
probably going to be one of those films slotted for like 2017 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
As a way, because they branched off into doing, and what they're mainly saying is that they want to do it because they still don't have the rights to X-Men, and they're not going to have the rights to X-Men for a long time,
Right.
since X-Men Apocalypse has been greenlit. Bryan
Mm.
Singer is back. He's been greenlit with all of his problems
Yeah.
with the courts and stuff like that. He still has been greenlit to be the director or writer
Mm.
for X-Men Apocalypse. So that's not leaving Fox anytime soon.
They're not giving those mutants up.
Yeah, Days of Future Past, which I think is going to be out on DVD within the next couple of weeks also, that did a spectacular business, so Fox is not going to give up their rights to them anytime soon. So Marvel Universe wants to make their own version of the X-Men, and the best people to do that is with the Inhumans, because technically they are mutants, because if you know anything about the Inhumans, they get their powers from the Terrigen mists or something like that. It's a mystical mist that gives you these powers. So you can have your mutants and deal with the mutant situation, deal with X-Men storylines, but have it deal with the Inhumans. And so that's where all the little pieces are coming in, that people are believing that the Inhumans is going to be one of these films. It's going to be that Marvel has listed for like 2017, 2018, something like that. And so they're thinking that what they're doing now is with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and with Coulson writing this crazy writing, and since it matches what's in the Inhuman, not exactly, but it's close enough, they're thinking that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might be setting up the Inhumans movie. So if that's the case, that'd be kind of interesting. Instead of maybe having to set it up in another film and take over, an Iron Man 4 or Avengers 3 or whatever, and say, oh, we got these characters, the Inhumans, we've got to introduce them so people know, even though that worked out okay for Guardians, where nobody got any idea who they were until the movie was dropped. They might want to try something different here. So why not mention them in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and who knows, maybe you don't necessarily have to cast the big guys and have them appear on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but there's so many Inhumans, you could cast some of the lesser ones and have them pop up in the movie as well. So there's the rumor about that.
Well, I mean, if that's true, then that means Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not going anywhere anytime soon. Because, if anything, Marvel is very good about laying the framework for something. They take their time, they let it build, and then it's like, after a while, it's like you look back and, it makes sense now. So, maybe they're not going anywhere with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, I've only watched, like, the first episode, and, again, I just got that feeling of there's just something missing from it, So it's one of those, if I see it, I see it, but I don't, have to see that show. And that's too bad, because, I wanted it to do well, but it's just, I don't know. There's something about it. It's just not there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're kind of maybe spoiled a little bit by how great the movies are. And you can't do a Marvel movie every week. It's just it's impossible. And maybe they need a new creative team on. I don't know. I like Joss Whedon's crew, but
even the action scenes in it just leave me a little like that was it was okay. But I know you don't watch it, and I hate to keep going back to it. But if you watch the action scenes in Arrow, that's how you do an action scene. I mean, that's amazing. And then you go and watch Marvel, and it's just like you guys need to hire a new, fight choreographer. Steal the one from Arrow. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So we'll look at that, and hopefully we'll see if that happens. And then there's another piece of news that I learned this week also, but it's tied into Gotham. We'll talk about that in our Gotham discussion. I guess this could be qualified as news real quick. Comic stores in the area, Free Comic Book Day is their big holiday, as it were, where they've set it up where you give away free comics from all the big wigs, Marvel, DC, and IDW, Dark Horse, and so on and so forth. And then you get the other independents involved as well. It's a way to get people to come into comic stores. You get advertising, you do contests, you get creators, and you do get lots of news and like that, and get people into your store. And it's like a big thing for them, and I highly recommend Free Comic Book Day. Is a fantastic holiday for them. But they've started to think about, what, we do such a great job with it in the spring/summer area. Why don't we do something similar in the fall/winter area? And the most obvious choice is Halloween. So they've created this a few years ago. I think it's called the Halloween Comic Fest or Scare Fest or something like that. I think it's on its third or fourth year this year, where it's basically free comic book day, but over a course of a weekend and not just on a Saturday in May. It's in the last weekend of October, right before Halloween. And most comic stores that you go to are in like strip malls or even regular mall proper sometimes as well. So you're going to have lots of different stores, and as part of their Halloween, last weekend before Halloween type of thing, they always like to maybe have, trick or treat at our, come dress in costume and come to our stores, come trick or treating. And it's another way to get people to come to your stores by offering, free trick or treating or whatever. So you bring the kids and you make it a big family thing, and you get a little bit of news coverage, maybe not much, but you get a little bit, say, hey, why don't you come down here, and get some stuff. And comic book stores have been doing that as well. So they said, why don't we just do something similar, like Free Comic Book Day, and make it for Halloween. So they've decided, as I said, they've done, it's like the third or fourth year this year, where once again the big wigs, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, IDW, Image, all of them, they are releasing holiday-specific type of comics for Free Comic Day, like Hellboy and Batman, long Halloween stories, and scary, but all ages, still all ages for kids. And then the independents, you can go either way. Some are all ages, some are for older kids. But it covers the whole weekend. So, since the next time we're going to do the show, it'll be in November, so it'll be gone and out of here. I just wanted to let everybody know out there, because one of the main reasons I want to do this show is to get people to go to the comic stores, because comic book stores, as I keep saying, are completely different nowadays than they are in the old days. They're fresh, they're clean, they're a lot of places I've gone to have really helpful people. The stores are pristine, and you're also it's a way to get more people, more women, more men, more kids, everyone to get into comics more. And with this huge popularity of comic books nowadays, it's becoming a great place to go. So it's just a good way to do that. So it's also a good way for them to connect the comics, with trick or treating, because you're going to be doing trick or treating anyway. You know what? Why not just come and get free comic book here? And so just to let you know, it'll be the last weekend of October, which, let me see, since Halloween's on a Friday this year, that would be, let's see, 31st, 30th, 29th, 25th, like the 25th and 26th of October, something like that is when this Halloween Comic Fest is. So highly recommend going to your local comic store. Look it up. I don't think they have a website like Free Comic Book Day does, but just go to your local comic store or call up your local comic store. You can go to the comic shop locator service, call up your local store, say, hey, are you going to be doing something for Halloween? And hopefully they'll know what you're talking about, because it is something that is happening. So.
And hopefully it's not as busy as it is on Free Comic Book Day either. So, you can spend more time browsing and, just kind of look around and get to know all the different genres that are out there, because, of course, with Halloween coming, it'll be a good time to look at some horror comics, and there are a lot of really good horror comics out there now. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it's spread over 2 days instead of just one day. So I remember when we went last year to the store up here with my kids, I think there was maybe one other person in the store at the time, but it was early. It was like 11 o'clock, so it was still pretty early. So hopefully more people came in. But yeah, free comics, and they had free candy for the kids, which was always great. So.
Cool.
So Halloween, Comic Fest, Scare Fest, whatever, last weekend of October. I think that's all the news, and we've been about half hour in, so I think we can spend the next bit of time talking about our main goal, which is Gotham. Real quick though, I want to say hi to Janine. She has tuned in, so hi Janine. Thanks for watching. And Will Fish was watching, but he's got to go out and do something, so he'll catch it on the repeat. So thank you too, Will. Actually, I got a funny story about Will real quick. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. I talk to him on Twitter a lot, and he's a big comic guy also. And we were going to try to meet up at Baltimore Comic-Con back in September. And at the time, I hadn't really had a chance to text him or DM him or whatever. Mm-hmm. So my kids were just having maybe a slight meltdown or whatever, and we talked about that last month. But I was on my way out because my son was just absolutely freaking out about something, I remember. And then I walked past this guy, and he goes, Dylan, I go, yeah. And it's like, it's Will Fish. I was like, oh, wow, I will, real quick. And then my son was being honored. He's like, Will, I'm sorry. I wish I could talk to you more, but I got to get him out of here. And he's like, I understand completely. So it was nice meeting you. So it was my real quick meet with Will Fish. So it was kind of cool. Hopefully next year the kids will be a little bit better. I will see.
A year older, year wiser. So, yeah. A year more patient, hopefully.
And plus, next year it's going to be later in September, so maybe maybe that'll help out a little bit also, because I think from what I recall, there's a major event going on down in Baltimore around that time. Like, it's the biggest convention they've ever had. So and it just happened to be that week, the weekend they usually take. So they had to find the next suitable one, so I think it's like September 25th or 26th. So it's going to be a little late. It's going to be a little later next year, but that might be kind of interesting to see that. Okay, let's talk about Gotham for a little bit. As I said earlier at the top of the show, both MJ and I, when Gotham was introduced and we were discussing it on Dylan Knows Comics, we were both a little hesitant about it. Right. I mean, just the idea, the premise. We're going to be following James Gordon as he's rising up through the ranks. He comes in as a captain. I don't think he's a captain. He's just a street guy now.
Yeah, he's like a detective or homicide detective or something. Yes.
And then it'll also be focusing a little bit on 10-year-old Bruce, who just lost his parents. And then they start saying, and guess who else is going to be there? The Penguin's going to be in there. And then Edward Nygma is going to be in there. And then
everybody's coming.
Everybody's coming. And we're like, come on, really? Yeah. Poor Batman. It's at least 10 to 15 years before Batman is Batman. Right. And you're going to introduce these characters already. I was like, it's not going to work. So I was like, you know what? Let's not be a little too hasty. Let's DVR it. Let's watch it and let's find out. 2 episodes in, and I'm almost ready to apologize because Gotham is actually a pretty good series. I actually enjoy it. What's your take, MJ? Real quick.
I'm almost ready to apologize, but not yet. Almost, because it could still, it's one of those where I'm like, okay, I'm not on the bubble with it. I'm more in favor of it now than I was previously, but they threw a lot at us. I mean, they've introduced a lot of characters, and I just hope that they can keep that going. Or I don't know. I'm going to still watch them. Of course, I do enjoy it, but it could go either way. Some of the characters I'm really vested in more than others. The Bruce Wayne character, I'm just like, okay, he's there really just because he almost has to be. But this little kid annoys me, so I'm like. And I don't really care for Alfred either. So there's something about him. I know that they're trying to go for the sterner Alfred that kind of raised him, and maybe if they explored his background, he turns out to be ex-military or something. Maybe, but I'm not fond of him. I'm not fond of little Bruce Wayne. It's just weird, and Bullock's character, I'm like, okay, so you're a dirty cop on the take the whole time too. I don't know. It's just kind of strange. But then, it's Gotham. What do you expect? So, the precinct there is just ridiculous. I'm like, who has a police precinct like this? I think somebody tweeted last week, and like they were expecting at any minute for a full-blown fight club to break out in there. And I'm like, well, they're pretty close. So,
Yeah, I do agree with that somewhat. What's got me a little scared right now is the news that I was going to mention earlier, but they've announced that they've cast Harvey Dent. Now, what drives me about that is, and here's the thing, Harvey Dent to me, and this is what's been, and once again, maybe I got the comics colored in my head or whatever, Harvey Dent to me has always been, and I've been told by other people, writers, stuff like that, this is what's supposed to be. It's like, this is who Batman could be. Batman could be Harvey Dent. You don't know. He could be, you don't know who Batman is. I mean, we know because we read the comics, but the people of Gotham don't know who this is. I mean, Bruce Wayne is probably on the is hardly even in the equation, because they're like, okay, it's just some rich playboy. Why would he dress up as a bat? That's stupid. But Harvey Dent, though, being a prosecutor, DA, who is being a guy in a dirty Gotham, knows that he cannot win, so he has to dress up as Batman and go out and bring justice the only way he knows how to, which is with his fists. Now, that's the way things. It's what Bruce probably could have become if his parents were not killed in that alley. He probably would have been a doctor instead of a DA, maybe, because his dad might have been not forcing him to, but might have pushed him a little bit into, you might want to be a doctor, because I'm a doctor. I find it very, but at the same time, Thomas has always seemed to me like he's not the type of father who says you got to do what I got to do. But I just have a feeling that Bruce idolizes his dad, his parents. I would think that he would probably want, if his parents had lived, he would probably become a doctor of some kind. I don't know.
Following in those footsteps, right?
Yeah. So, but to me, Harvey Dent is one of those people that the people of Gotham was like, okay, he could be Batman because he's got the same build, the same belief system. So yeah, this is obviously before he becomes Two-Face. So what scares me is that if that's the case, then you're going to make him like a 20-year-old or whatever. So by the time Bruce is Batman, he's going to be about 10 years older than him, which doesn't quite mesh with the idea that this could be Batman. And that's one of the things that that was my main issue with going into the series before I watched it. It was like, well, how is this going to work out? Because he's 10 years old. Mm-hmm. All right, Bruce is 10 years old. He just saw his parents get killed. He's going to go on his little world tour. I guess, I don't know, it was like 10 or 15 years, but I guess he didn't actually go on his world tour till he was a teenager at least, maybe? Or
yeah, he had to have been, finished with school or somehow, 18, let's say.
Yeah. And then, for like 10, because it's gonna take more than just a year or two abroad to learn all the skills he has as Batman. It's gonna take at least 10 years. Yeah. So that puts him in about the 25 to 28 year range, unless he decides to just say, screw the world, I'm leaving school at the age of 15 and doing my own thing,
Right. Yeah.
So that puts him squarely at the 25 to 28 when he comes back to Gotham as Batman. Or to decide to come back as Batman after he's done his training. Because let's face it, 10 years is about the minimum you could probably have to learn everything he knows. I mean, he talks about all the time. He learned, how to escape, from locked things. He learned about, how the criminal mind works. He learned all this stuff. So.
And the physical training, not to mention the physical training that he went through. I mean, you don't go in and become, that high level of a martial artist in 3 or 4 years. So, he's put himself out there for a while that he took to do all this.
Yeah. So, but looking into the show, and then after I saw the first episode, I started thinking about things a little bit because I was going in wanting to hate the show, and it actually won me over a little bit. But it does release a lot of questions. I like the fact that Selina is roughly probably a couple years older than Bruce. I'm not saying she's 15, but to me, I think she's about the 13-year-old range. She looks about a 13.
Older.
So she's about 3 years older than him. That works for me. Selina, because Selina and Bruce down the line, they have that thing going on. The 3-year difference works for me on that end. And she's had a tougher life, living on the streets, stuff like that. I like her character, starting off as being the orphan on the streets, learning how to steal, because that leads to her becoming Catwoman, learning on the streets, pickpocketing, stuff like that. What I'm not a big fan of is the fact, and it's not really a spoiler since it happens in the first 10 minutes of the film, but she witnessed the death of the Waynes.
Right.
And I don't know if adding that element to the series was necessary, but I guess maybe it was. That way you can have Selina's connection to Gordon and Bruce somewhat set because she shared the same event with Bruce and maybe has a better understanding of him, because I've always thought that she's probably always known that Bruce was Batman, even before he told her. Yeah. She probably had some sort of idea, and maybe that's what this is leading to too. That she sees what's happening and she knows, watches what the kid's going through, and that all of a sudden there's this guy. He comes back as an older guy, and all of a sudden this Batman appears and
on the streets. Yeah,
it makes sense. So I'm okay with that. The other thing I had a problem with going into it, but it sort of got appeased watching the first episode, was the appearance of the Penguin. And I started thinking about that. I was like, well, what are you going to do with him? I mean, the Penguin is like kind of a one-note type of character. He's a legitimate businessman who is a criminal on the side. Right. And the way he builds up his empire, he's like the Kingpin basically in Marvel. He's evil, he's a bad guy.
But
but
he's
he
got a
also
business.
but he's got a business. He runs a business. So seeing him as a foot soldier in Fish Mooney's crew, and then getting rejected due
Mm-hmm.
to him, for whatever, wanting to turn traitor or because he wants
Right.
to go his own way, whatever. That actually makes sense to me because Penguin is older than Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes sense. And this is what I like Penguin's arc because we start seeing the rise of his empire. I mean, he's starting off slow. He's going to cause a lot of he's going to
Right.
have a lot of issues starting off like he's already did like the second episode where he's trying to extort money from somebody and it's not quite working. You know, going to have some issues. He's going to have some issues getting built up, but it's going to be fun to watch how the Penguin goes from being a foot soldier to becoming the main crime lord of Gotham.
Right.
So I'm okay with that as well. What's your take on the Penguin?
First, I was not feeling the Penguin at all, but this was before the series started. So the way that they showed him, as you said, being, Fish Mooney's little foot soldier, his interaction with Gordon, these other two cops that he's obviously been feeding information to, and it gets found out. I'm kind of interested in seeing where he goes with this. I like the fact that he limps for a reason now because, basically she crushed his legs, and so he's limping around like that. And, you can see kind of what's coming because you start to see that sadistic streak in him that really starts to come out. First he enjoys beating the guy behind the restaurant, the alley there. And then he takes out the guys in the car and just this whole bumbling around, attempting to extort money. And, when he says these little things like, I'll send you his eyes, I'm like, he's not just saying that to say it, because you can start to see where he's like, well, there's nothing wrong with sending eyes to somebody if you don't do what I want. So, you see this world that he grew up in, and it's just like, wow, and so I am starting to see that watching these guys' mental state evolve or devolve is kind of fun. So, I'm looking forward to that.
And then let me get your take then on Selena also. I sort of skipped over Selena. What's your take on Selena also?
I don't know. I kind of see her as just being almost a trope. She's like the spunky little street hoodlum that has lots of street smarts. She takes care of herself, this, that, and the other. So I think that they need to do a little bit more with her. And again, I don't think it was necessary for her to have witnessed the assassination of Bruce Wayne's parents. So I don't know where that's going to go, especially with the fact that she's bringing Gordon into the fact that she knows what really happened. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but, I'm waiting to see. I'm withholding judgment on her. I like her, but she's not driving the series for me.
One of my favorite tweets I saw this week about that was like, is Selena going to witness a major crime in every beginning of every episode? Because let's look at it. She witnessed the Wayne murder at the beginning of the pilot, and in the second episode, she witnessed the attack by the two
Right.
almost. I guess I'd like to say the Fargo-esque kidnappers, with their golly gee Williker type of. And I love the fact that Frank Whaley was in that because I love Frank Whaley. He's great. He was great in The Freshman. He's great in Career Opportunities. He had an interesting role in Pulp Fiction, and Broken Arrow, another good one. So I like his style. I'm just seeing him as this golly gee Willikers guy was fantastic. I was so great about that. And then I loved also seeing Carol Kane, who I think is the Penguin's mother, but I think she's she didn't do much in this episode, but I think she's hiding a lot more because I think she's going to be more of the driving influence for the Penguin to become the Penguin, as it were. Yeah. Give him more pointers about how not to be bumbling. I think she's a lot more vicious and serious than she let on in this episode, just because she's going to become a recurring character. And you gotta love Carol Kane. She's fantastic as the Penguin's mother like that. So
I think she's been a little protective of him too, trying to play up his innocence. I'm like, no, if you got a son like that, you know what he's about. So, I'm sure she's found like little, animal body parts or something in his closet at some point. She's,
And then I like all the little shout outs they've been doing to the Batman world. They've been shouting out to the chief. I guess the chief of police right now is Essen, who is the female. I guess they're going to go with Sarah Essen because for those who've read the comics, she's the one who has the affair with Jim Gordon, which ruins his marriage,
right.
And eventually he ends up marrying her. To me, though, I'm wondering if they're just using the name because she seems a lot older than Jim is, and she seems to hate his guts because she's just as
Genuine.
corrupt as everyone else.
Hmm.
Whereas in the comics, Sarah was on board because she didn't come in till Jim was, I guess, commissioner,
Hmm.
and she's younger than him in the comics also, and she's one of his, homicide detectives or whatever,
Right.
and that spirals into the affair. So I don't know if Essen was just the name they wanted to give to say, hey, it's a shout out to the Batman fans. It's Essen. Is it going to lead to an affair between the two of them? Is it possible? Sure, but right now I'm not positive about that. Then you mentioned Bullock.
Hmm.
I like Donald Logue. I think he was very well cast as Bullock,
Yes.
and from what I recall from the comics, Bullock has kind of a dirty aspect to him, but when Jim came on board and he was partnered up with him, he started learning that maybe I shouldn't be the dirty
Okay.
cop and maybe I should start cleaning up my act a little bit. Like he starts buying into what Jim Gordon is selling.
Hmm.
And I'm still not seeing that right now because I think Benjamin McKenzie's Gordon is still a little too bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Uh,
trying to clean stuff up. And yes, Gordon is that way, but Gordon also needs to have a little bit of an edge. And I guess it's fairly similar to what Gary Oldman did in the Nolan trilogy, where you get to see some of his early stuff, where he was on
hmm.
one of the I think even it might have been the first movie actually, where he's on his partner goes in and gets the take
Hmm.
from one of the people, the protection thing, and Gordon just sort of blows it up and doesn't say anything. Whereas
Yeah.
this Gordon is kind of, well, you shouldn't do that. It's not a good type of thing to do. But I don't know. Mackenzie still seems, he looks the part, I guess, of Gordon, and he's got sort of the can do good
Hmm.
attitude of Gordon, and he also has that little bit of a dark side, which Gordon does have, but he's not a dirty cop. And
Right.
I'm torn. I think Mackenzie's doing a pretty good job as Gordon. I'm just waiting to see what else he's got planned for that. So we'll see
I
about
just
that.
kind of wish. I just kind of wish that they had maybe not gone quite so far with Bullock. I mean, yeah, he's always hinted at that he was a dirty cop, that he could be on the take, that he could be, but I mean, he basically came across as a hitman for Fish Mooney. He's like, he condoned this hit, and he's like, hey, kill him or else. That's a little serious. That's a little, for Jim to at some point forgive and want to keep him on his force and become a rising member with him. I don't know. It's just it's a weird interaction they've set up, I think.
No, I do. I agree with that. I do agree with that. And there is. It seems he does. Yeah, as you pointed out, he does seem to be a bit more over the edge than the actual Bullock from the comics
Right.
is. And that's the other point that we get into also when we get to the MCU, the Major Crimes Unit people. Both of them are also characters that were introduced in the comics. Montoya
Hmm.
and Allen. Now, what I don't like is I don't like Montoya and Allen's attitudes,
Hmm.
because the Montoya and Allen I know are not that hard ass, we hate the GCPD type of
Right.
people. They're good cops. They're ones that are not on the take. And they are the ones that I believe Gordon brought in himself because he wanted to have people who had similar beliefs that he had to keep
Right.
the GCPD clean. And I'm kind of, and I don't look. I like the fact that they're making Montoya a lesbian. I like that idea because she is in the comics, and I think that's a characteristic you need to bring out of Montoya because she is that way. To have her tied to Barbara Gordon, I'm not a big
Yeah,
fan of.
I could not figure out why they did that either. I saw it in the first episode. I'm like, did that just happen? I'm like, yeah, I think so. They're setting something up between them. I'm like, I don't remember that ever being part of the plot lines.
And here's the thing also, and this might, and once again, maybe I'm just needling, and I'm doing nitpicking here and there because I am a comic fan of it. She's not Barbara Gordon yet. She's still, they haven't been married yet. They're just, I guess, living together right now. They're in the
Right.
throes of their blossoming relationship, and I guess it was either this last episode or the first episode, where it was. I think it was a pilot where Jim was trying to like flirt with her and says, oh, Barbara Kane, you're driving me crazy, something like that. Now, in the comics, Katie Kane is Montoya's lover,
Right.
So you're throwing in the Kane name now as well, and once again, you can throw that as okay. That's a shout out to Bob Kane who created Batman. We're not gonna even go into the whole Bob Kane thing yet, but that could be there. But there is actually a character called Katie Kane who was in love with Montoya. So to throw that in there. And then it looks like it's going to be a big part of the third episode. It's going to be on tomorrow.
Right.
That the Montoya is going to be trying to chat with Barbara again, and I like the fact that Montoya is a lesbian. I just don't like the fact that she seems too much of a, excuse my French, a bitch, as it were. I mean, she's supposed to be a hard ass. She's supposed to be a hard ass, which is fine, but she also respects Jim Gordon because I think Jim Gordon was the one that brought her in to help clean up the GCPD. Now, Alan's sort of been in the background, and I don't think we've actually got his first name, but when I heard Alan, the first instinct was Crispus Allen, who was Montoya's partner in the awesome comic Gotham Central. And Crispus Allen eventually is the one who becomes the Spectre in the pre-52 DC.
Right.
He gets killed by a dirty cop, and Spirit of Vengeance comes in and becomes he becomes the holder for the Spectre. And I know they're probably not going to do that because they're going to try to keep Gotham in a bubble where it's going to make it more of a procedural cop show and not throw any of these. I mean, I could be wrong, not throw a lot of this, because if they were going to throw in the craziness that is in the Batman comics, they would have said it during Batman's reign in Gotham and called the show Gotham Central, and it wouldn't have been how Gotham became Gotham. It would be Gotham is now clean under Commissioner Jim Gordon. Batman's out there. Let's follow what they do. And once again, we talked about that. That would have been a great show to do also. But the fact that they're showing how Gotham became Gotham and how Jim is starting out trying to clean up at the bottom and to give us an idea about how tough it is to clean up a crooked, dirty police precinct.
I mean, that whole precinct just looks like everybody's on the take, and I agree with what you said about Montoya. She always has an edge to her, but at the same time, she's not really cynical about her work and her department. She loves that job. She's not cynical about it. And this one, I'm not quite sure which way they're going to go with it. They could chalk it off, say, hey, she's had her heart broken by Barbara Gordon, or, who knows what they're going to say has happened. But, for right now, she's not quite where I picture her as being.
And that's good. No, that's good analysis also. And that leads us to another character they threw out there, Falcone. Yes. And I'll have to tell you this: I love Falcone. I know I should. I know he's the main crime lord now, but the actor they got to play Falcone is absolutely fantastic and perfect and so great. And and I also the creation of Fish Mooney. I love Jada. I've always loved Jada, and I think she kills it. I think she's doing a fantastic job as being one of the grunts of Falcone who aspires to knock out Falcone. At the same time, I love the fact that Falcone's like, I love you, but I know what you're trying to do, so I'm going to beat up your boyfriend.
No, not her boyfriend. It was her workout partner.
Her workout partner, yes. I should say that, yes.
I love that whole scene with them in the restaurant. It was just, I don't know.
It was dripping with menace and dripping with just fun interaction, and they just killed it. I loved, and then the pilot, I love Falcone's reaction to Jim Gordon saying, "I knew your father. He was a good man," and just the whole, and it's got to be Needle and Gordon. He's like, man, this crime boss is telling me he likes my dad. And that's horrible because I hate him. But
I've got to find a way to put you away.
Exactly. But I love Falcone. I love him. I think he's fantastic. And as always, I think Jada's doing great as well.
Over the top.
So, but I think so. That's about.
Oh, well, you know what? I am also looking forward to seeing how they work Edward Nygma out of his position that he's in now and what he's going to become and do, because when I first saw him as part of the the CSI guys, the ballistic specialist, I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. So and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that whole thing, because he seems to be really interested and into what he's doing now. So what flipped him off the edge? So that'll be good to see.
And I love the fact that his appearance in the last episode where he comes in and he's sort of just sort of looking around waiting for someone to acknowledge him, and
Right.
that's a very distinct characteristic of Edward, because he is an egotist, as I've mentioned before.
Yes.
He's a guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he wants
Mm-hmm.
to prove how smart he is by saying, well, I found all this out, and I did this and I did this, and I deserve all your accolades, and then when he didn't get it, he was sort of like, okay.
What's going on?
I'll leave now. I'm gonna go leave but yeah, they have, hopefully maybe they'll have a couple episodes focusing a bit more on him, because right now he's only popped in a few scenes, but he's starting to show a little bit of what is to come. And once again, the age thing, I'm okay with that, because Riddler is a little bit older than Batman, right. So I'm okay with that. Is the stand-up comedian from the pilot, is he going to be the Joker?
Right. Honestly, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is, there's a kids show called the Fresh Beat Band, and it's about a group of kids who are in a band, and it's all joyful and triumphant and all this stuff. The actor who plays one of the characters in that was the stand-up comedian. Okay. And the fact that it made me think about that it could be the Joker was twofold. Is one, it's not the Joker. He's not the Joker yet, obviously, and he can't be the Joker yet because he doesn't have Batman to mess around with yet. But if you want to go with the origin that he is a failed stand-up comedian, which is one of the possible origins of the Joker, is that he's a failed stand-up comedian, and he was terrible. Let's face it. Fish Mooney just loved him because maybe she liked how he looked, or just wanted to be outlandish, whatever. But and what got me was, and I don't know if you noticed this, but when she, in that whole scene, that's when the Penguin comes in and Fish tells him that I know you are the traitor, and then starts smashing him with the chair and stuff like that. They cut real quick to the stand-up comedian, who has a look of absolute horror on his face that this brutality exists. Uh-huh. And then the fact is that you're showing, you have this little scene that it's leading to the Penguin getting his ass kicked, yes, but you start off with the first couple minutes before that happens with her listening to the stand-up comedian. So why do you need to spend a few minutes with a stand-up comedian? And why make it a stand-up comedian unless you're going to introduce them as a Joker, possibly? As I said, I don't want to see the Joker in Gotham, because the Joker is a response to Batman. It's not Joker's here first and then Batman rolls in. No, Batman rolls in, the Joker is the response to Batman. So, but the rumor is, I've been hearing, is that they've been saying stuff that the Joker is going to be making an appearance or something, and then maybe the next season.
They almost have to. You don't want it to happen if you're a purist, but they almost have to do it, because if you're going to have something with Gotham, and it's going to deal with the underbelly of the city and the darkness that creates it. I mean, who better to be a part of that than in some form or fashion than the Joker? So
yeah, it makes sense. So we'll see what happens with that. So let me see what else was there. The shout out to Arkham Asylum.
Yes.
It's being shut down, and I guess that makes sense also because they reopened that with the arrival of all the psychotic villains. They needed to reopen it to have them. You couldn't put them in general population in jail, because that would just be bad. So, so you got to put them someplace else. So the shout out to Arkham Asylum, and then there was also, I forget, I think it was when in the second episode where Bruce has been testing his limits. And we'll talk about Bruce in a second, because I know I tend to agree with what you were saying about Bruce, but he was testing his limits, and Alfred is upset with him and thinks he needs to go see a psychiatrist.
Right.
So all Bat fans, the first psychiatrist to think of is Dr. Hugo Strange. Now I'm just wondering if maybe he's going to make an appearance as well, and they're going to try to shoehorn all these villains in here. And in this case, I can see Hugo Strange making an appearance in here, and I wouldn't be too upset about it, because he really doesn't, once again, does not become a major villain until the arrival of Batman.
Yeah.
So, but he's, you got to have a starting point somewhere. So he could be and he is older. He's much older than Bruce is. So he could be a professional psychiatrist. So you got that as well. And then the total throw out of Poison Ivy, and
yeah.
give me your take on that because I'm a little, huh?
It's almost like they needed a reason just to. That's what I mean about them throwing so many characters in. It's like you don't have to hit everybody over the head with everybody all at once. That can evolve. But I mean, why did you even bother to bring her into it? Ivy. The whole thing with her father being set up and everything. That just had nothing to do with anything, really. So I'm
I mean, yeah, I mean, she doesn't really need that to become a villain, you know?
exactly. She doesn't, I don't know. That whole thing was just kind of strange, and maybe they just feel like again they need to introduce so many people and start to show you just how crazy develops and how it builds up. But yeah, I wasn't impressed by her appearance at all. So
Yeah. So as I said, still like it. Better than I thought it was, but there's still a lot that I'm getting into, as you are too. I'm not loving it yet, and I'm still waiting to see what they're gonna plan on doing that. Now, real quick, you mentioned this earlier. Let's talk about Bruce and Alfred. I got your take on them. Here's mine. I agree with you. Bruce seems annoying, but with a caveat here. I mean, yeah, he did just see his parents get killed, but to me, it just the first time when Gordon arrives in the pilot to talk to him, and he's on the roof, are we going to jump, or are you just standing there?
what
Are you
limit is that?
suicidal? Exactly. I mean, I can understand maybe you're suicidal. You just
Right.
lost your parents. You just watched them get killed. Um, you know,
But Alfred was kind of callous about it. He was just like, "Get down," like he's like, "Oh, here you go again, standing on the roof." It's almost like he wanted to say either jump or get down. Make up your mind, but stop this. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
well, yeah, and I think maybe it was Doug Close might have been the one who mentioned this also. He was questioning about what's going on with Alfred also, and I started thinking about it a little bit. I'm I admit seems to be a little something off with Alfred,
Yeah.
but the thing is though, if you're going to be going like you said, he was MI5 in the comics, so he does have that government background spy type of vicious background type of thing, and what happened was he decided that he'd had enough and decided to go to where the grass is greener, follow after his father, look after the Waynes, make sure it's something a lot less stressful job, and so on and so forth, and then get thrown into becoming the guardian of a 10-year-old. He's probably never had, well, in the comics it's a different story, but maybe this Alfred has never had any children, and he doesn't know. He doesn't know what to do, and maybe he tried being, the proper British father, but it just wasn't working, and maybe the only thing he can think of is to do this. So I'm willing to give a little bit of leeway to the fact that he seems to be a bit more callous and vicious, but I do want to see a change, because that's all I've been noticing is that this callousness and viciousness. I'd like to see that he's starting to get into his role as the guardian, and he's starting to understand that you cannot treat your kids, with just pure anger and hate. You got to throw the love in there also. You got to show the love. You got to, you got to give them, things to do. You got to give them that type of thing. And I'm hoping that eventually we're gonna see a better progression of Alfred being a better guardian. However, my caveat to that is, yeah, sometimes it feels like they're just shoehorning them into the series because it's Gotham. You've got to see what's going on with Bruce Wayne. You got to see what's going on with Alfred. When in all honesty, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Pop in on him every once in a while, that's fine, because there's really not much difference going to happen.
No.
He's not going off and doing his tour of learning how to do stuff yet,
Right. Yeah.
And, let's just, what's next? Next week, is he going to be out? Let's see. Let's go spelunking in the cave to see if I can. And then, oh wait, there's all these bats. What's going to happen now? Oh wow, this seems like this might be a neat place for a hideout, maybe, or a clubhouse. Who knows?
I mean, there's a lot that they can do with him. I just don't think that they will do it. If they really wanted to make young Bruce Wayne interesting to me, I think that let Alfred say, okay, let's let you deal with your your aggression, your emotions. Start training him, start teaching him young, and then have him running around doing stupid little like Damien stuff. I could see him doing that and just getting his butt kicked all the time because he's like, getting into mess that he has no business doing, and it scares him, and he's learning that way. But just to have him holed up in this mansion, buying new clothes for the homeless kids in Gotham, no, I'm not interested in that.
No, that is an absolutely brilliant idea. I mean, if they are going to stick with the fact that maybe Alfred has this spy background, MI5 background,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees that okay, Bruce is he's got all this aggression and anger. Well, obviously you would after while we harness that and try to control it a little better, and then you need to get defeated in order to get better. You need to learn, so you need to get your ass kicked in order to get better. That's why this whole policy nowadays where every kid gets a trophy, or there is no winners or losers, or all players or whatever.
That shouldn't work with young Bruce Wayne and Alfred.
Exactly, yeah, and it shouldn't. And to be honest, it makes the kids nowadays seem like, okay, everything should be for me. Everything should be on a gold platter for me. I never had that issue. I'm sure you probably never had that issue when you were growing up. You learned about, sometimes you lose, and you know what happens?
Your trophy is that big bruise you got.
And then the thing is, then you learn. You're like, okay, what could I have done to help us win better? Okay, I was 0 for 4 at the plate. Okay, maybe I need to learn more how to watch how the ball curves, or maybe I made
a little right.
Yeah, or maybe I made an error in the outfield. Maybe I need to take some more practice in the field. Maybe I should learn how to, or maybe I should just give up. Maybe I'm just not good enough at baseball. Maybe I need to learn another sport, like football or soccer or whatever, and maybe I'll get better at that. And maybe I'm not as jock. Maybe I'm better of a writer, an artist, whatever. And just.
But get out there and try.
Exactly. And if you fail, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. I mean, that goes back to the line from I think it was the first Batman. It's like, why do we fall? So that we can get back up again. Well, if he never falls, then hey, how was Batman created? So I think that if they're going to do that, they really need to take it in that direction. He can't just be holed up waiting for stuff to happen, and Selena pops in his window one night. No. That's just, unless she's going to drag him out and dangle him over the balcony and be like, let's just see how much fear you really can control. That I'd want to see. Otherwise,
or that would even be a better idea. Maybe she could be like his street smart trainer. It's like, hey, you want to learn how to fight these things? Yeah. Let's go take a look at the corruption that's out there now, so we can try to figure out what we're going to do about it.
Great idea too. Yeah, she could have him come out and be like, look, you need to see what we really experience day to day. You're sitting up here on your mountain looking down at us. Come join me for a night or two. That'd be pretty interesting.
I have no parents, I live, I live in an alley, or I live at a homeless shelter, or whatever. I need to survive, so I steal. I'm not saying it's good, but I take money from people, and it's how I survive. Yeah, I mean, we're similar to Aladdin if you want to look at it that way. I mean, Aladdin's out there; he's a street smart kid. Mm-hmm. He's stealing to live. I think he has a song in the Disney film. It's like I gotta steal to eat, gotta eat to live, type of thing. So I'm not condoning the fact that you should be a thief, but you need to start, and maybe then Bruce could say, okay, I see that this park or whatever is in disarray, it's disgusting, or there's abandoned houses, stuff like that. Why don't I take my substantial money that I have, and why don't I wreck these buildings and let me build something that can actually be helpful? Another homeless shelter, a free clinic, which I would love to see. Right. I would love to see the free clinic that he puts in, because you've got the one, I can't think of her name, but the one doctor who knows his identity as well, and have her work in. She's a doctor straight up, and she works at this free clinic, and helps these kids, who can't take care of themselves, and get hurt, the best way to do it. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and who knows, maybe they're going to do that. Right. But right now, it's just okay.
Yeah, it's just okay.
You're sad, you're angry. I get it, but you know what? Get over. I don't want to say get over it, because that's not good. But do something with it, harness it a little bit, and make it a little better.
I wanted to see you sitting there moping and holding your hand over a candle. I don't care about that. So.
So I think the consensus is we both enjoyed it a bit more than we thought we
Better than
would.
I thought. Right. Going to
But
stick with it for a while. Yeah.
there's still issues with it. And we'll see where it's going to go, and hopefully things will continue. Once again, I don't see Jada sticking around for much longer, since the Penguin's got to become the de facto criminal mastermind eventually. So eventually, and then it's the joke, penguins eat fish, so something's going to happen where they're going to face off and Jada's going to get the bad end of it somehow. So,
but I tell you though, they got to be careful with that, because Fish Mooney has become a very popular character in just 2 episodes. So, if she's not there to handle a certain part of that, that's a big void to take at face. So.
Absolutely, and that you got to give a lot of props also to Jada on that, because
exactly.
she is fantastic in
that part, right?
And much Baltimore pride, because she's one of ours. So
claim what you can.
So that's Gotham, and we'll come back to it maybe mid-season, maybe next year, early next year, January, February. We'll come back to say, okay, how do we see Gotham? I think something good for us to maybe discuss next month might be The Flash, because I'm dying to see The Flash. I think The Flash is going to be awesome, and I'm really excited for The Flash. And that's going to be one of those where I'm going to make time to watch it so that I'm caught up on it. I'm not you know what, it's on my DVR, I'll watch it whenever, which is what I'm doing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. right now. But for The Flash, we do that. And then, Constantine also. I mean, that might be another one that I'm actually a little bit intrigued about also. Just the things I've been hearing.
In October?
Yeah, October 24th.
Right.
Yeah, October 24th. It's a Friday, so I'm hoping that's going to be a good one as well. I've heard they're going to be doing a lot of Easter eggs in that as well, and I like speaking of October, Halloween. I like the supernatural characters in the DC universe.
Yes.
And I'm kind of disappointed, but I understand they're going to be releasing a supernatural Batman Gotham comic. I don't know if it's this month. I think it might be next month. And it's going to be like the Midnight Crew or something like that. So it's it's like sort of an X-Files. The police department has a midnight crew, overnight crew that goes and explores these supernatural aspects. And Gotham, if you've been reading Gotham, I've been reading Batman Eternal, has been starting to get a little bit more supernatural lately. So it makes sense. So and the fact is, you got Ben Templesmith doing the artwork, who did the 30 Days of Night series, and his very gothic, very horror-esque. So, and you got Ray Fox, who's a pretty good horror writer as well, writing the book. So I'm kind of hoping it'll be out for Halloween, but I think we had to wait till November or December for that. But still, supernatural aspect. So hopefully, Constantine and his supernatural aspect, we'll start seeing characters like, I know Dr. Fate's helmet's going to make an appearance in there, and Deadman's a pretty easy character you can do for the most part. I'd love to see Zatanna, and maybe I know Guillermo del Toro has a plan for Justice League Dark, but you might want to put the Germ in Constantine, because it's such a great idea as well, as a superhero team that deals with the supernatural. So. Okay, so that was a good discussion. I think 2 more things I want to go over, and then we'll probably end this one, if that's cool with you, MJ.
That's cool.
The first one is, as we were talking about earlier before the show, went to Hershey Park yesterday. It was Dawn's company. Hershey Park is closed, but Dawn's company, as well as a bunch of other companies, they can rent out the park for a day or whatever, and it could probably costs a pretty penny, but I mean, still, it gives you a chance to rent out the park. So it's like a family fun day. So it was just McCormick, which is my wife's company, and a few other companies as well. So it was definitely not as crowded as you're used to for Hershey Park, one of these parks like that. So you get a chance to do all these rides and stuff like that. I've noticed a lot, and this is basically how it's a major change in people's opinions on comic books nowadays and superheroes. I mean, back, not maybe 10 years ago, superheroes and comics were still kind of, they're still kind of for kids, and they were still making,
right?
Yeah, whenever they talked about Batman, it was always still the whole bang zoom, holy Batman, holy Robin, stuff like that. So comics weren't really taken too seriously, and at that time maybe the women aspect of it with more women getting into comics might not have started right away. It might have started around that time, but it seemed like comics were not well looked upon. I mean, this is before Batman, begins and all the stuff. So, and then what had changed 10 years is because I walk into Hershey Park, and when you walk in, there's a bunch of stores, Hershey stores and stuffed animal store and restaurants and stuff like that before you get to the rides proper. There's actually a pop culture store in Hershey Park, and all the windows with the display mannequins, everything they were displaying was superhero stuff. There was Iron Man, there was Green Lantern, there was Superman, there was Batman, there was Wonder Woman, and there were Guardians of the Galaxy even, and they were just different shirts and stuff like that inside Hershey Park. So you got that pop culture thing, and then waiting in line, because I mean it was busy, but it wasn't as busy as it could be. So the line wait, you still might have to wait like 5 minutes or whatever. You look around and you look at the crowd. I saw someone wearing a Green Lantern shirt. I saw a bunch of people wearing Batman shirts. I saw somebody wearing Spider-Man stuff. And it's not just kids. I mean, they were wearing them too, but there were adults doing that. Iron Man, Wonder Woman, and then of all things, this is the weirdest thing, and I still, I still can't believe I saw this. Someone was cosplaying as Deadpool at Hershey Park, and there's no comic show or anything. It's just this guy. It's this guy walking down walking through the midway. He's got the Deadpool mask and the Deadpool outfit, and he didn't have the swords because they're not allowed to have the swords. But I mean, he was in full Deadpool regalia, and nobody was giving him a second look, and he was the only one. But it's like, wow. Comics have really, have gotten out of this, come on, and then, with all the movies. I mean, I think 2016, not next year, but 2016 is going to be a huge year for comics. Like DC has like 2 movies, and Marvel has like 2 or 3 movies. So it's going to be like right off the bat, 5 or 6 comic book movies coming out in 2 years, and there's always comic book movies coming. I mean, this year alone we had 4 come out, something like that, 4 or 5 come out this year. So, comics are beginning to get, respect. I don't know if that's the proper word, but I mean, if you go anywhere now, I mean, you go to a mall or you go to some other location, like to go to the wine country, if you're near like a winery, or go just anywhere, you're gonna see somebody probably wearing some kind of.
Some logo from one of the heroes will be on their chest. So.
And it absolutely blows my mind seeing all that stuff. So that was just.
It's a good thing. I'm glad that it's creeping into mainstream, American mainstream culture like that. I just don't want it to become oversaturated, because there's always the risk of that too. But I am happy to see the direction it's gone in, that it's come back from not the dead. It was never dead, but it's definitely making a strong rise right now. So it's good. Yeah.
And they're starting to learn their lessons now. They did not take the rising female population becoming interested in comics seriously for the longest time. Right. But nowadays they're releasing new stuff all the time that's more female oriented. And that was one of the things I was trying. I wanted to try to talk to Jessica and Bronwyn about last week, but it just because of our discussion about other things didn't quite get there. But I want to get their take, and maybe I'll get them back on. Maybe I'll ask the question again sometime. Did the fact that when you have these like new female superheroes that are getting their own series, like a Black Widow or Elektra, or or even turning Thor female, is that enough for you to want to get into to read the books, or do you don't want to have every character become female and have it oriented towards you, that you like seeing? Like, it's hard to explain. Like, you want to see a male Thor, or you want to see a superhero comic that might not necessarily be a female-centric one. Is that is that what you want to see, or would you like to see? Are you happy with the fact that all these female superheroes are getting their due? I'm not sure. That was one of those things that I'll have to try to figure out a way to reword it. So. Speaking of that, though, Thor #1 came out this week. The female Thor, and the funny thing is, it's not. I guess it's not really funny, but I haven't read it yet. But I was leafing through it, and to be honest, she does not even make an appearance till the very end.
Yeah. So really, you gotta wait for #2 to see what's gonna happen. But, exactly. I think that's gonna be a big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than people realize, because you're gonna have 12, 10, 12, 13-year-old girls who are going to pick this up and be like, hey, there's a female major superhero who's going toe-to-toe with the big guys now. She's not just dressed up in spandex and, hanging in the corners and being pretty. She's going to get down and dirty with, like, the big hitters of the Marvel Universe and hold her own against them. If she has the power of Thor, I mean, this is a big hitter here. So I think it's a really big deal what they've done and what they're bringing into the universe now.
And I didn't read Original Sin, but I've been reading analysis, stuff like that. There, I guess, is one issue where, or maybe it wasn't that, or maybe it was Avengers, something like that. But there's one issue where it sort of takes a 5-year leap, sort of like what DC did, and took a look at some of the future of some of the characters. And Thor is back as Thor, but the female Thor is still hanging around with the powers also. So this is probably something that's not going to say, okay, we're going to make her female Thor for a year, and then all right, we'll bring male Thor back just in time for the Thor 3, movie to come out and do it like that. No, she's going to be a big role in Marvel in the upcoming future, which is, I guess, kind of a good thing to go with. And so Marvel probably is the comic company that isn't independent. The independents have been doing this for years. They've been doing strong female characters for years. But of the big ones, I guess maybe Image and IDW somewhat, but of Marvel and DC, Marvel was the one that started, I think, really getting more into the female characters, because if you look at what's on the shelf now from Marvel, you've got Elektra, Black Widow, She-Hulk, female Thor. I'm probably missing some in there. There's Storm,
has her own title now. Right.
They all have their own titles. So right there, that's 5, right off the top of my head, that are female-centric characters, and there's more coming. I think Spider-Woman is coming with the advent of the Spider-Verse storyline is coming up, and so you've got another one there. So I think it's really good, because you can't just count on young men, older men, to carry the comics, to keep them going. You need to focus on women, and you also need to focus on kids, because they're the ones that you get them excited about comics.
And then when they get older, it's still there. Right.
Exactly. So DC has sort of been a little bit slower about catching up on it, but this week they're starting to make some changes too. Gotham Academy came out, which is a book that seems rather odd in the DC world, because it focuses on a boarding school for girls. I think I don't think there's any boys in it. I think it's a female boarding school that I think Bruce Wayne. No, there's boys in there. Okay, so it is going to be. It's just a boarding school in general. But what's great though is that one of the co-writers is Becky Cloonan, who is a great artist writer in her own right, but she's just writing that. So you are going to get a female voice in this as well. Oh yeah, and Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, 2 other ones. So that's 7 right now that Marvel's doing right now, and both of those are excellent. I mean, both of those are also written by women, and that's the big thing, is that not only do you need women superheroes, you need to have women come and write the books and draw the books as well. And that's where we're going to be getting, I think, Batgirl, the new Batgirl team is coming out maybe next week or in 2 weeks, and you've got a female artist on that, which is fantastic also. So really looking forward to that. So, there's some good stuff out there for women, and hopefully it'll continue. But I mean, so we just saw those. Those are 2 number 1s that just came out this month. I mean, this week. I mean, this week there's a ton of number 1s and new reboots and stuff like that. I didn't buy it, but I think it's Captain America 25 introduces Sam Wilson, who played the Falcon, as the new Captain America. So that's a great idea as well, to have a brand new Captain America. I don't know if they're doing a number 1 with him, or if they're just going to continue with Captain America, maybe 26, 27. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with that. So, I mean, we'll see. But then we've got, and then both Sam and Lady Thor, I guess you want to call her now, if you don't know who she is yet. they're both going to be, they're going to reboot the Avengers team also, and they're going to be 2 of the characters that are going to be on the Avengers, as is, they're going to be rebooting Iron Man. They're going to make him more of like a dickhead Iron Man. They're going to call him Superior Iron Man, similar to the Superior Spider-Man. They're going to make Tony Stark more of a dick. I guess that's okay.
Old Tony Stark used to be, when he drank all the time in the comic book. So they're just going to go back to him, I guess.
And then you've got Angela now, who's been introduced into the world. It started out in Spawn, and then has broken out into the Marvel Universe and turns out to be Thor and Loki's sister. So you got that. She's going to be on the team as well. So that could be an interesting book as well when they reboot that. So I don't know what's going on, but I haven't done my comic haul, so I'm just going to do a couple things. So October tends to be the time where they're starting over again, getting things rolling here. Winter Soldier, once again, I guess, getting into the Marvel movies, stuff like that. You know, he was a big deal in the movie this year, so why not do another comic with him? So you got him. I got this basically from Jessica, who we had on last week. She tweeted out how impressed she was by it, even though she wasn't going to buy it originally. And it's very similar. It's more painterly, similar to like a way Elektra is now. It's more painterly than regular comic book style. And then once again, because Marvel is anything but, you know, they're going to promote, you know, if you got a movie out there, why not promote it? So hey, Guardians 3000 #1. Now, people who don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy actually started off as a team in the future with none of the characters, no Star-Lord, no Rocket, no Groot. It was the characters that are in this one. I think Yondu is the only one that might have been in connection to the movie. Is in this one. So, and there's Yondu actually right there. So Yondu is in this one. So you know, you get that, and you get them started up. So they got their own series as well as the regular Guardian series you're used to with Groot and Star-Lord and Gamora and all that. And DC is, you know, they're not shying away either. I just bought this one because of the writer Cullen Bunn, but I'm not a fan of Emo Lobo. So Lobo #1 came out. I'll read it, but I like Cullen Bunn's stuff, but I don't like this Emo Lobo, so this is probably going to be the only issue I buy. But I figure I may as well try it. Maybe I'll like it. Once again, you never know. Like Gotham, I was like, Gotham, I wasn't going to like it, and then actually not too bad. What's interesting about this, you were talking about Arrow. Green Arrow #35 is a new creative team, and the writers are writers of the Arrow TV show. So they're also branching over to comics.
Right.
Yeah, because to be honest, the way they've been running the character in the New 52, Arrow has been a big influence on that. So, you know, Green Arrow in pre-New 52 was the bearded older guy, you know, in his 50s, you know, still running around doing stuff like that. Now they decide, you know, Arrow's such a popular TV show. We want to get a younger group in here, so let's make Green Arrow younger. So they made him younger, and they've made him, you know, settle in Seattle, and they made the characters from the TV show are in the comic as well. And now you got two of the writers of the show on there as well. So if you're a fan of the Arrow TV show, you might want to pick up Green Arrow 35, brand new creative team, everything.
It's a smart move.
Yeah, it is a smart move. And then DC is they're doing their crossover. Marvel's got the Spider-Verse coming up in next month, which I'm dying to. I've been reading Edge of Spider-Verse. I love Edge of Spider-Verse, and I can't wait for the Spider-Verse storyline. So that's going to be their big fall crossover. This one DC's doing is Godhead, which is you're going to have the new gods taking on Darkseid, using all the different lanterns, the yellow, red, blue, green, so on and so forth. So you've got the first issue, which is going to introduce the storyline. It's going to tie into all the Green Lantern books. So pretty good. So that's some stuff that, you know, if you since I didn't do my haul, and I probably won't do my haul since it's a little too late for that.
It's your mini haul.
It's my mini haul. You might want to go into your comic stores and check those out. So I think we've covered about everything I wanted to. Is there anything else you wanted to add, MJ?
No, I think that's about it. Just remind everybody, Flash and Arrow this week. It's coming back. You know, so we'll have something to talk about next month. Yeah, I think that's it.
Keep up on Gotham as well. We'll be revisiting that, and as we said, in a few months, just to say, okay, we're halfway through the season now. What do you think? Do we still like it? Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? That type of thing. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, as I said, I'm still going to keep watching it. It's pretty good. It
could go either way right now.
It could. Just that final. I mean, we've only had 2 episodes, so we'll see what happens. I think other than that, I think that's it. Let's see. Next week on Dylan Knows, I don't know exactly when we're going to do the show because my co-host Jerry Fletcher has got a busy weekend, and I got to figure out It might not be Saturday, Sunday. It might be a Friday episode, but just keep on my my Twitter feed. I'll let you guys know when the next episode will be on. It's going to be. I think she agreed to it. I hope she did. I haven't read the DM yet, but I think what we're going to try to do is keeping with the Halloween October theme. We're going to do top 10 horror creatures. Like vampires, zombies, stuff like that. So we'll have our discussion about that. So that should be pretty interesting. Speaking of zombies. Next Sunday,
yes.
Walking Dead is back.
Finally.
The season begins. Yeah, finally. It seems like an eternity. Yep. So next Sunday, the 12th, be sure to catch the new episode of Walking Dead. And because that is Snark Alec Radio's one of their Raison d'Etres on Thursdays, which is another show you need to watch. I will be on Snark Alec Radio on Thursday unless Tony hasn't invited me yet. We discussed it a couple weeks ago, but hopefully I'll be on Thursday. We'll be talking predictions on upcoming Walking Dead, so we'll see what's going on about that. And for those who've been watching, The Strain has its season finale tonight.
Yes.
Very great show. Love the show. MJ and I, we live tweet it. Along with a whole bunch of other people, so you might want to read our feeds because it's actually really cool. It's some really good, funny stuff that we come up with. But it's a really good series, and really looking forward to how they're going to wrap it up. They have been renewed for a second season, so that'll be good. This past Friday, Disney aired the 1 hour special episode of Star Wars Rebels, which is their new animated Star Wars cartoon. The series does not begin until next Monday, the 13th. So I'm sure Disney's going to be rerunning the 1 hour premiere ad nauseum eventually. I recorded it, can't wait to watch it. But for those who like the Clone Wars cartoon, which is actually an excellent cartoon for Star Wars, this is a similar feel. So check that out as well. And all these have comic connections. I mean, Walking Dead's from a comic. The Strain actually was a comic from Dark Horse. I mean, it's a novel, but they also did comics in the world as well. And of course, Star Wars. So it's a comic book. So us discussing it is not that too whack, is it?
It keeps in with the theme of the show. So
exactly. So I think, and then our next show will be. November 2nd, I guess, because Halloween's on a Friday, so it'll be November 2nd.
It'll be that following, yep.
Yeah, so we'll probably be discussing The Flash, and we'll see some other stuff. That's the only thing I think off the top of my head, but we never know what could happen in the next month or so. Right. Things could pop up, so stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Sunday, despite all the technical gaffes that we always seem to have.
It all works out in the end. That's all that matters. So.
Exactly. So on that, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to go watch some football, see how the Ravens are doing.
There you go.
And then got to help my son with a project. So yippee.
Your day is planned.
Yep. Have a good week. Have a good month. And MJ and I will see you next month. Bye.
Thank you.